I'm going to kind of like angle it so I can see your face, so
absolutely.
I don't have to go to this. So this is a bit of a weird conversation, I guess, because of how long I've known you, and I know you know everything that I'm about to say anyway.
But say it anyway.
To get it out there. So the reef, when I first arrived here, had 2011 until 2017 with this model of let's support the community, let's make sure they have jobs, let's make sure they have professional training opportunities, and then the community elders get a fee or get a bit of funding for not using this resource as food. And so 6 years of that, combined with the work of those previous marine biologists, controlling things like crown of thorns, trupella, doing some coral planting. When I arrived, this reef was awesome. It was gorgeous. Today, it is even more amazing. It is a very, very special ecosystem. Thousands of square meters of corals. We've recorded 97 species so far, but that could be over 100. It could be 150. We're still cataloging that. 330 fish species so far. Each year that increases as well. So what's so encouraging about this is that it's sort of like a win-win-win situation when it all works well. So when we had some issues with COVID, but when tourism was functioning, obviously we've got a flow of money here that employs the locals. It keeps giving them that revenue that I've just spoken about. And even in 2019, we saw the community, who had been so encouraged by the success of the protection on this island, designate a new protected area right near where the village was. Myself and Pete were there when the village elders decided that, and that's one of the most special moments of my life, and definitely my time here in Fiji, and being witness to kind of what the Matangali, the village elders, the council there, sort of discussing amongst themselves, going through that sort of formal process to say, are we all happy that we're going to make this a no fish zone? And then them all agreeing to that, saying the prayers, making it official. You get goosebumps in the moment seeing stuff like that.
And why do you think they have embraced that? What's made them embrace, or what's made them embrace it?
If I can be blunt, I would say that it has been a successful source of revenue. That they got more money from it. There's not really anything ideological in it. I think it's just resource management. We now have a lot of local trained staff. They won't always be here. We have 4 Fijian marine biologists on this island. 2 of them will be here long term. 2 of them have been trained and will be based on other sites. We've got locals without a science background or without a university degree who've come up through the dive shop. We've taught them to do their open water course. That's now instructors. Bete is now an instructor. So we've got these guys. So we have a capacity. We have a team of people able to take guests out, coral planting, take them out on guided snorkels, Fijian snorkel guides, marine biologists showing tourists Fijian reefs, explaining Fijian species, giving them that level of immersive experience. What's extremely encouraging with our time here is that this little model has 12 years of success behind it, and there's not really any mysteries around why it works. We provide the community with a better source of revenue for this resource than if they were catching food from it. That prevents the ecological degradation. The revenue comes because the ecosystem is nice. Actually, there's spillover effect. We've got data collected from some of our university partnerships which show quite a clear spillover effect from our protected area to the rest of the island.
For fishing, increasing the fishing?
Mainly for grazing fish from the data, but that has resulted in an increase in coral cover and diversity outside as well. So actually since 2019, between November 2019 and November 2022, both inside and outside the protected area improved in fish life and coral cover, but the biggest improvement was much more obvious outside. And so inside was nice but got slightly nicer, but that was sort of already at almost the carrying capacity, and so there was more stuff was going outside. And there's still quite a few patches outside which are pretty degraded. I've got some footage that I've sent you where you see that there's some spots which are alright, there's some spots which are not great, some spots which are recovering. It's obviously all connected, and going back to the community, they're not the enemies here. We're not trying to stop any part of their natural culture, you know, and how they interact with the resources here and the nature here.
And how important has the collaboration with the locals been in this whole process?
It's the everything. It's not just how important is it. It's without the collaboration, there's nothing. With the if you don't have the collaboration, you've got nothing. And so it's because it's their resource, and it's them who will be here longer than anyone, and it's their children that we're all doing this for. You know, it's and conservation is the same the world round. If there is a poor community that needs that resource, they will use it, and it doesn't matter how you feel about it. It doesn't matter how you appeal to them ideologically. It's not going to work unless you find a better way to use that resource, or to allow them not to use it in that fashion. And
when you are collaborating, sort of what does that mean actually? What does collaboration mean?
So there's two parts of the collaboration. There's the personal side and there's the business side, or like the economic side. So the personal / cultural side is you need to know these people. You need to, I mean, like, we went to the school the other day and we're meeting the daughter-in-law of the chief that I'm sure Pete met for the first time 15-20 years ago. And you know, you're seeing kids of families that you've known for decades, and seeing and you can share memories, and you can so that's a very, very special thing. If you don't have that buy-in and you don't know these people on that personal level, then it's always going to be hard. You know, it's always going to be hard to meet eye to eye and appeal to each other, because we're coming from completely different lives, you know, belief systems, you know, ways of viewing the world, right? So having that personal sort of relationship is key, and then the economics is extremely key as well. As I said, if they're not getting the same amount or more than how they would use this for fishing, then they're just going to keep using it for fishing, right? So in order to cover that, you know, giving jobs, giving training opportunities, just giving a rental fee, all of these sorts of things,
and assisting maybe when they have other things above and beyond that.
Exactly. Which would cover sort of both. You know, cover sort of both. I mean, you know, when there was no tourism in COVID, we were able to raise 15,000 Aussie dollars. We started sending food packages out to the village, and we were able.
Why was that important?
We saw way more mantas, and we saw them for longer. And on the reef there was way more fishing. So we record every year how many incidences of fishing or poaching that we get, and in 2019 we had 2 incidences. And the first 6 months from March till sort of September, October, we didn't have a fish warden, we didn't have any money from that fundraiser just yet. So in that 6 months we had 32 incidences that I was able to record, and 1 or 2 of them was sort of an old uncle with a canoe and a line, just sure, whatever. But 1 or 2 of those incidences were 10, 18, 19-year-old lads arriving at night with torches and spears, getting dropped in on the point on sunrise, 3 hours later getting picked up here, bundles of parrotfish and surgeonfish, bags of sea cucumbers, the odd clam, you know. So the worst of it was dynamite fishing. On the same day we ran out, the phone tower was down, the generator broke, so we ran out of rainwater, so we couldn't pump diesel water. So it was a bit of an interesting experience. We were about to go out for mantas, and these this explosion.
And why do you think, like, you know, basically they just needed to feed themselves?
You can keep coming back to that. I'd say that there's levels to it, you know. The boys who went spearfishing, you can kind of say, look, all right, you didn't have a job, kind of still a bit disrespectful. Once people are getting dynamite and blowing up a reef, that's illegal, and there's a bit of a, you know, extra level to it. You can justify it only so far, but in the context of the time, you know, that was more likely to happen, right? And in the end, it was quite an adventurous little thing. I don't know if you remember, but basically we got a cheeky photo of the boat registration. I managed to then take that, run up the hill and get 1 bar of reception because the phone tower's down. Emailed it to the fisheries, or did I WhatsApp it to Gareth, and Gareth sent it to the fisheries department. They sent it to the Navy. The Navy were out here already looking for the guys because they'd been blowing up reefs all over. The Navy managed to find them 4 hours later. They threw dynamite at the Navy boat and managed to get away, and they hid the boat in the mangroves near Lautoka, but police managed to put officers outside the house for where the boat was registered to, and then they got the guys 2 days later. And then the last I heard, they were being interrogated to find out who gave them the dynamite, and there was some other stuff going on, and all ended up a bit Hollywood, as I say.
But it goes to show how important tourism is, because otherwise people are left to resort to going back to the original traditional use of the reefs, which is for food. And so tell me a bit more about the food program that was done for the village.
So we sat down with Taisami, the spokesman for the village, and we said we've got this much money raised. At the moment our capacity is 1,000 kilos, and we worked out there was 42 houses in the village, households, and we wanted to give them food, what they would be trying to buy. The main thing with the fish they were catching, that any locals were catching here, occasionally they'd catch fish to eat, but it was mainly catching fish to sell, because they needed any sort of money, and this was where the resource was. So in terms of, we're not going to give you a substitute for the fish you're eating, we're going to give you a substitute for the money that would buy you the rice, sugar, flour, tea. And so, we worked out 42 packages of rice, flour, tea, cooking oil, sugar, noodles. I think that was it. And so these were the things they wanted. These were the things that we were really happy
So again,
to provide.
it came directed from them, what they wanted to you, rather than...
Completely. Because, you've got to be very careful imposing your charity on people, right? We've decided this is what you need. So the message at the time was, any sort of money that we can give them is going to show fairly quick results in terms of reducing fishing pressure. And you just have to appreciate the local kind of politics. And once we got a lot of the support from the head chief, we had some other villagers coming and looking for sea cucumbers, and they came and they chatted to our fish warden, the spokesman, Taisami, and they discussed where are the boundaries, and they literally just went all the way along the boundaries and just plucked all the sea cucumbers they could.
And is that because, as you said, they know it's a good reef because of the years of, it's been producing? Could you tell me a little bit more about the sort of imparting of knowledge to the local people, and what you've done about doing that, and where you hope to see that go?
I say there's a couple of levels to it. The first one would be that Bete in 2018 joined us as one of those trainees. I did his open water course. He's now an instructor, and so between me and Bete, we've probably done coral gardening of 30 species, 3,000 colonies that we've planted, and so on a very small individual personal level, I've imparted a bit of knowledge to him, and that's been nice to see going forward. And I see him occasionally passing that on to some of our other staff. Then we've got some of the Fijian marine biologists, and a lot of these guys are arriving with really, really high levels of academic understanding of reef ecology, coral biology. Their species ID is amazing, and they haven't had that much time in the water. They haven't had that much time with tourists. Broadly speaking, what would be really special is if we can impart wisdom that allows the communities to look after these resources better. And so you joining us in the school, you saw how exciting our partnership looks to be growing into, and next year we'll be teaching in 3 schools in the Asawas, and then the year after that 8 schools. So now we're not talking about me teaching one person on a personal level. Now we're talking about imparting, hopefully, useful education to a community that, again, we come back to this win-win-win. We want to give them ability, opportunity to get jobs and to look after themselves. We want to give them knowledge of how to look after this reef, from things like taking plastics off your corals and crown of thorns and some basic stuff like that. We can teach them some coral gardening techniques. Always interesting when you kind of come to these communities their knowledge of the resource and the ecosystem is, like we've already said, coming from a completely different standpoint to ours. And I would say that, you know, our academic understanding, our scientific understanding is, and theirs is, but then there's other parts of it. For example, Taisami the fish warden in COVID pointing at a tree and saying, oh, the leaves have turned red for that species of tree. In 1 week time, we'll be able to start foraging for octopus. And nailed it. 7 days later, first octopus of the season. So there's opportunities for a flow both ways. And I think the Goldilocks zone is where we're giving them useful information that we're not imposing on them. We're trying to uncover and learn more about how they interact and understand their ecosystem, and you sort of synergize it and grow and develop and harmonize.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much.